is Lukasz Stanek from the University of Manchester, and since several years I'm working on a project which is focused on the mobilities of architecture between Socialist Eastern Europe, West Africa and the Middle East in the Cold War. This project will be published as a book next year, and the project focuses on instances of collaboration between architects, planners, contractors, managers, workers from Eastern European socialist countries and local actors in 5 cities in specific periods of time. And these 5 cities are first Accra, under Kwame Nkrumah, so the late 50s and the early 60s, which was one of the first places where the socialist model of development was translated. For the tropical conditions, and architects and planners had a fundamental role in this translation. The second city is Lagos in the 1970s in Nigeria, where architects and planners and contractors from countries such as Poland, but also Hungary, Yugoslavia, Romania, worked in the midst of the oil boom, and where they tried to look at longer traditions of Eastern European architectural culture in order to respond to the challenges at hand in Lagos, such as questions of post-colonial development, modernization, but also national identity. The third case study is Baghdad, between the late 50s and the late 70s, where architects and planners and contractors collaborated with the Iraqi actors within the very specific political economy of foreign trade in state socialism, and tried to identify the opportunities and constraints in order to produce important works such as the master plan of Baghdad, such as the general housing program for Iraq, for the whole country, and a number of other engagements, such as, for instance, the questions of architectural education. And the final case study is focused on the Gulf, on Abu Dhabi and Kuwait City, where I can show how architects and contractors and other actors from Eastern Europe became integrated into the increasingly globalized and Western-dominated market of design and construction services. So this book tries to achieve a number of things. To begin with, as I already mentioned, it shows specific urbanization processes in 5 cities based on archives which have been never tapped into until now. Secondly, it offers a comparative perspective on Eastern Europe, but a comparative perspective from the South, which I argue comes with specific epistemic advantages. But what the book also does is to show how globalization of architecture needs to be fundamentally rethought. In other words, today we have a tendency to reduce globalization into Westernization or Americanization. By contrast, this book shows that global urbanization processes emerged from within competing projects of solidarity, worldwide project of solidarity formulated by actors from West Africa, from the Middle East, and from Eastern Europe. And finally, this book shows how current urbanization conditions in many of these places are still being impacted by those exchanges. And I'm thinking about infrastructure, I'm thinking about buildings, which create vectors of urbanization in Accra, in Baghdad, in Lagos. But I'm also thinking about the institutional frameworks, about regulations. Several of those building norms, for example, seismic norms in North Africa are Romanian norms. So there is a number of very clear institutional impacts which continue until today. It also involves curricula which were very much shaped by the collaboration between local educators and Eastern Europeans. So in many ways, this book is not a project about failed globalization ideas, but rather it is really a more heterogeneous and antagonistic genealogy of current globalization or global urbanization processes.